welcome back to another brand new MotoGP 24 video. Now today we have one goal and one goal only, and that is to find out if the guided setup, the engineer in game, is actually worthwhile using, or is it just kind of a gimmick feature in the game. Now, as you'll all know if you are long-term viewers, and probably not even long-term viewers, you'll know that setups are probably my main asset I can bring to this world, whether it be GP bikes or MotoGP series or other games as well. But I just like diving setups. I'm a mechanic at heart, so I like tinkering and playing with dampening settings and spring rates and all sorts of little shit. So the fact that this game has a kind of an adaptive kind of engineer mode where you can tell him what's wrong, he comes back with a solution, I think it's quite good. I know a lot of people think they just couldn't be bothered with setups, they don't know how they work, which is a big thing for a lot of people. They just don't understand how the suspension of a bike works and what increasing or decreasing the swing arm will do, for example, and stuff. So today's basic purpose, we're going to do a few laps as Alex Marquez, not Mark Marquez on screen, and after that then we will jump to the engineer. We'll have an old chat with him, a cup of tea, we'll have an old idea, we'll have a session, and we'll see what he comes back with. I'll try it on track, see if my feedback back to him and the changes he put in have changed or not, or does it kind of, is it vague, is it just kind of no matter what you'll say he'll give you the same answer. So it's just going to be basically see if it works. So let's jump over now to Motogp for some testing. Just quickly guys, if you do enjoy today's video, if you wouldn't mind, let me know with either a like or a comment, and maybe even consider subscribing for future videos. Thanks, back to the video. So the reason we have come here to Motogp is a lot of heavy braking. It's quite a basic track, a lot of simple 90-degree corners. It's a basic track, which means it's actually quite difficult to ride. It's quite a tricky track to get right consistently, and also it's a very hard track to set a bike up on. So we're going to have issues in some corners, which will give me good feedback back to my engineer to see if he can fix them. So just going to spin a few laps. I probably won't really show you. I might kind of give a little summary at the end of what I'm trying to fix before I tell the engineer, and I'll then kind of go through the changes and we'll see what he says from there. So one slight difference I'm going to just make to this video, I'm going to go into the manual setup and just show you, if you press X on an Xbox controller or square I suppose on a PlayStation controller, it will set to recommended setup. Now this isn't anything to do with engineer, it's just a recommended setup in the game. It'll put you on the right tires for the conditions, it'll put you on the recommended brakes, as well as give a very basic kind of setup change to the track you're at. So it might for example, it might increase or decrease the swing arm length if you're at Austria and the heavy brake, and same here maybe at Motogp. And if you actually go, for example, into suspension, and if you go show recommended by pressing Y, see the way it's just highlighted, it will change the preload. That's what it's going to change for you, and you can then hit apply by hitting the start button, and it will apply that setup for you, and you can change the variant. But today we are focusing on our little guided setup, man. Now I'm going to quickly run you through what you actually can change. It doesn't have actually everything in here, which is a bit of a shame. So straight away the engineer will ask you where the issue is, so it'll ask you on what part of the racetrack. So straight line braking, first initial corner entry, mid corner, corner exit, or just straight acceleration in a straight line. So going to braking, we'll give you two options. So stopping, so if the rear end is kicking about, or the sliding on corner entry. But the corner entry, it'll be precision, so that'll be understeer, oversteer. Understeer is when there is too much grip on the rear and the front is basically skipping across the road and the bike just cannot turn. Oversteer is when there's too much grip on the front and the rear is basically unsettled, coming into the corner, and the rear of the bike is oversteering, so it's rotating more than you want it. Handling, leans slowly, leans fast. So again, this is pretty basic. Either the bike is leaning in nice and slowly or nice and fast. You tell them what you want to change there. Again, corner entry, it's different parts of the track, different things will happen, but again it'll be the same thing. It leans slow, leans fast. Corner exit, again, understeer, oversteer, and it either picks the bike up fast or doesn't. If you go to wheelies or acceleration, it's progression or stability. Now unfortunately there's no actual issue for wheelies, so if you're having chronic wheelies you can't tell them that. Which is one thing I always found would be useful for a lot of people, because I know every year when these games come out, when they change something slightly, a lot of people say to me, oh, I'm getting chronic wheelies, how do I get rid of them? And I tell them, oh, you could try this, you can try that, you can try this, and I give them a load of setup options to do there. But I just think it's such a critical part in modern day MotoGP that you should have that in the game if you're able to have mid-corner understeer and mid-corner oversteer. If you can dial that out with the engineer, you should be able to dial out the wheelies also. But see here, the progression has slow speed and has low acceleration, so these are just different facets again that we go into. It has low traction and wobbles, so if low traction will be sliding, if it wobbles it'd be more like a pumping, so it's kind of losing traction, and the traction controllers be kicking in. For me, the bike actually felt quite well. It was pretty typical, of course. When I'm trying to look for something wrong, I didn't feel like anything's wrong. What I'm going to go for is on the corner, so I'm in the corner. I'm going to go for a small bit of understeer. So in theory, with the bike now wanting to be more oversteery, the bike will be a bit less stable in heavy braking, which it felt pretty good in the first lap I did there. So we're going to apply the understeering. In the second here, it'll give you a small little thing there. To follow a tighter trajectory near the apex, I would increase the weight at the front of the bike to create more grip at the front end. So again, like I said, if it's oversteering, you have not enough grip on the, or sorry, it's understeering, you have too much grip on the rear. It's always the opposite. So if you're oversteering, the rear is coming around, you have too much front grip. So we could have a lot of oversteer now where the bike might be sliding on entry. So that's what we're going to go with now. You'll see here in a second. Track engineer is going to reduce the front fork preload, increase front compression, and increase the engine brake by 1 step. So that will basically have more engine braking, will make the rear end a bit more floaty, and also naturally just make the bike turn better. So that's kind of one of those things. He'll also change tires if you need them. So we're going to do a couple laps there now again, and I'll kind of come back in and just maybe talk about how I feel, if it's done anything or has it actually worked or anything. So immediately I've noticed that I don't seem to feel like I can pull the bike down as easy. So just that straight line braking performance that I had on my first lap is gone. Also, mid corner on throttle, it feels a lot nicer. But again, it's a massive trade-off. Every setup will be. So just this part of the corner here just feels like when I pick up throttle, the bike is just a bit more pliant, and it likes to control itself a bit better. And again, through this long corner here, I can use a lot more throttle. So again, it has fixed it. But then corners like this, you do lose a bit of stability on just overall control of the bike on entry. But these long corners here, the change, you lose the front. The change in setup will definitely help me all the way through here. It'll be kind of the opening sector, and from the next hairpin back to the start finish straight is where we lose time. So you'll end up seeing that, you'll say you've set a lap time, and then you'll end up having first sector where you'll be pretty slow. You'll be really fast in through sector 2 and 3 uphill here, and then the heavy braking zones again you will lose out small bits. You'll never really find a setup that makes you quicker across all 4 sectors. It'll always be a compromise. It'll just be whether you can compromise as a rider in the heavier braking zones if you've changed the bike to be a bit more naturally turning. So it's always a compromise. And yeah, it's definitely after doing something to the bike. So my biggest gripe would always be that it does something but you don't feel on track. I can definitely feel it, because I've definitely felt on the first lap that I felt really stable, I felt nice and solid, but I just didn't have very natural turning. Whereas I definitely feel now in the heavy braking zones, I just need to be slightly more cautious with the way to throw the bike in. I can't throw the bike in. You can see there, rear end just starting to protest a small bit even on traction 4. So again, it is showing that by changing the smallest of settings, it has definitely affected the way the bike even accelerated out of the corners. So it's not just on corners, because you saw I would have said mid corner, but it affects entry on corners and exit. It also affects the whole kind of situation with the bike. And again, into these heavier braking zones, just see the rear end just, I'm trying to manage it as best I can, but the rear end is sliding about with the rear brake as well. So it definitely is affecting my engine braking too, but it's doing pretty much what I wanted. So through this sector, the bike is definitely holding a tighter trajectory, and just overall I feel a lot more able to take my nice flowing lines, even cutting the corner there. I was turning in so early, so straight away definitely can feel it different. I'm going to do one more setting in a second. I'm going to reset it and go back in and say that the bike feels terrible in a straight line, and see can then I feel better in the heavy braking. So I've completely resetted the setup now. I'm going to go straight in and go to braking, and I'm going to say the bike is doing stoppies. So if you want to avoid stoppies when dropping the gas, I can stiffen the front suspension and compression dampening. So basically what he's doing there is stiffer springs will allow the bike to have more less pitch, but more, it'll have more substance in the front, and also the compression dampening, so it basically won't go down through the fork as quick, which will give the effect that the front isn't nosediving. Which also, if you think of the bike, if you look at the front of the bike, as that compresses, it's basically a lever to pull the rear up. So if the front comes down slower, the back will come up slower, so that'll stop the stoppie. So the logic there is nice. So front compression, increase that, so you have stiffer front compression. You decrease rear rebound, so the rear rebounding, so the rear coming off the ground will be slower, because he's decreasing the rear. So when you decrease it, you slow it down, you can stiffen it up essentially. Increase fork oil, more oil in, it will just feel a bit more plush. It will again slow down the oil going through the orifices in the forks, and just slows down the compression again going down through it. Letting the swing arm to shift the center of gravity. So again, that's another thing that's quite interesting to see, that they've also changed the swing arm. So usually a shorter wheelbase in a bike will be nice and snappy. You'll feel very, very lively, sharp is the way to describe it. A longer wheelbase will be a bit more lazy, a bit more calm, probably not as quick, but definitely calmer. So we're asking him to help us with something because we feel like the bike's a bit nervous in straight line braking. So again, can't fault the setup change. These are things I would change myself. So again, props to him for having it in the right way. So that's again always one of those things. You're always just a bit afraid that you might say to him that the bike isn't turning at this point of the corner. He just gives you a base setup for everything and doesn't actually take into account what you're saying. But once again, we are going to jump back onto the track now here and see if the bike is better in straight line braking. So straight into turn 1, I got massively out the anchors and the bike was just very stable. Feel out of there though, I just don't have the rotation, so again, by stiffening the front of the bike, it doesn't allow the bike to turn as well. So straight out I feel again, the stopping power has come back. I'm very easy getting the bike stopped now, but I do feel that it's ever so slightly lazy to turn in. And you can see I had to make a small adjustment there at the very end of the exit of the corner there to stop myself from running off the track. Again, I'm able to go really hard on the brakes here and not have any issue. So it definitely has improved the braking. But on corner exit now, I'm really struggling with the bike because it feels a bit more lethargic. Again, it just doesn't hold the line through there and out on the curb. And with the slightly longer wheelbase, it just isn't as nice to change direction. It's just a bit more lethargic. So once again, can't fault the guided setup. It definitely has worked. Now, one thing I will say is probably, if you don't know yourself what the issue is, maybe stay away from it, because you could potentially make the bike worse yourself by saying that the bike is understeering corner when it became you. Like, that was me making a mistake there. That wasn't understeer, that was me just blowing the corner. If I said the engineer, oh, it's understeering and understeering, he'll make the bike worse in that phase there that we made. So we'll actually make the bike worse for ourselves and we won't know it. So having some knowledge of, racing knowledge really, of how a bike, not even bike, more just understeer, oversteer, corner entry phase and all the different phases and stuff, just understanding what's going on a racetrack, and you're not just going around in circles and going from white line to white line. You are actually kind of having a dance with this bike the whole way around the racetrack. So it's, again, something maybe I can make a video on in the future. Let me know if you'd like to see something along down the lines along that. But definitely this setup has really worked. It just, the bike is so stable on the brakes. Probably a bit too stable for me, because when it gets so stable, you can't really maneuver the bike around. You can't reposition it for the corner ahead. So for me, this is too stable. As I push into the corner again, I'm small but deep, but I can't maneuver the rear end to pivot around to make the corner. So at a track like this, you probably would go towards this setup, but maybe not as far as this one, because this one feels a bit too extreme to me, because it feels amazing in this first sector here once you get the bike nice and into the corner early. But as we go up the hill here into this fast flowing sector, the bike does feel a bit lazy, a bit slow to tip in. Again, it just pushes the line through there. You just see we didn't hold a nice flowing line through there, almost out on the curb there on that side, changing direction. So there is a lot of play here. Again, just seem just not close enough to that apex as I'd like to be. You can see how straight out we get the muscle memory, and the muscle memory is just tipping in from what the bike was doing a while ago. We saw a while ago we ended up on the green there, and this time, just because the bike is a bit more lethargic, again, we've put stippers, front springs, and we've decreased everything about the bike to stop at nosediving. But to get a bike to turn, you want the front down, you want the rear up, and that's how a bike will rotate around. And what we've done is kind of taken the bike away from that setup, and now it doesn't turn, but it feels amazing in straight line. So this is the exact compromise of a bike setup, and yeah, it's definitely working here with the guided setup, I'm happy to say, because I know a lot of people out there don't want to be fiddling with compression dampening, rebound dampening, lengthening and shortening swing arms, and playing with different spring rates and stuff. So the fact that the game has a feature that can give you a setup and dial in a setup for you is really good, and the fact it does also work. So that is where we're going to leave for today's video. Hopefully Alex Marquez can get his engineer to sort out a good setup for him when we get to Assen. And yeah, it's been fun today as always. Thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions, let me know in a comment down below, or feel free to jump into my Discord. I have a whole section in my Discord called Help Corner, where you can post a question or video or picture, and I can try and help you out my best to solve your problem you have now. Anyway, that has been it. Hope you have enjoyed. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we should catch you in a future video in the not so distant future. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one. Slán go fóill.